There are several ways to navigate to rubrics in the repertories in RadarOpus. These approaches will apply to any of the included repertories in the package, but I'll be demonstrating in the synthesis repertory, as I advise this to be your default repertory for daily use in clinical practice. First, if you know the general wording of the rubric you need, you can directly type to it. This is the approach I use most often. You usually need to type only the first few letters of each level of navigation, followed by a return. Here it's helpful, of course, to be familiar with the chapters of the repertory and with the general organization of the text. This familiarity will come with use, but the software will actually guide you along nicely in this process. Chapters will generally be selected with the first 2 to 4 letters of their name, followed by return. For example, MI for mind, BL for bladder, etc. If you work slowly at first and watch your progress in the display, you'll do fine. As you become more proficient, you'll find yourself quickly typing along without needing to pay attention to the software's prompts. For example, looking for the rubric mind fastidious, I type MI for mind, FAST for fastidious, return twice, and here I am back in the repertory at the rubric. I found it's helpful to know some entry point rubrics. It's a good exercise to keep a paper copy of the repertory in the bathroom or wherever, and to page through it on a regular basis, just to acquaint yourself with its structure and contents in a general way. But it would take a savant to memorize the wording and location of all the rubrics one might wish to have access to in practice. But I can remember mind fastidious and quickly type to this, and then use the cross-references for that rubric to direct me to rubrics of similar meaning. Mind trifles seem important, and a double click on this will take me to it in the repertory. I'll spend some time in a future tutorial looking carefully into the use of cross-references and concepts as wormholes that can take you through the repertory quickly, but for now, just think of these as similar to those you might also be interested in links at Amazon.com. Synonyms placed in the repertory can come in handy. For example, mind, hyperactive children looks interesting, and I navigate to this and discover it's not really a rubric, it's merely a placeholder with a cross-reference. So I could double-click on this cross-reference to general's energy, excessive energy, or with the cursor still on hyperactive children, I can just press the return key once more and go directly to this rubric in the repertory. Now, if I'm familiar with even a complex rubric, for example, bladder pain, urination during end of cutting pain, I can quickly type directly to this. BL, return P, UR, DU, E, C. And here I am to that rubric, very quickly attained because I happen to know the wording of the rubric. I could type more of each word, and often do, as the words tend to run out of my fingers automatically, but you can see that as one gains familiarity with the repertory, it's really possible to shortcut this and to fly through this process. Now, you can browse through the repertory in the same manner, taking some time to look around as you navigate by typing. For example, stomach, return, eruct for eructations, and I can see that eructations and type of eructations are 2 distinct sections in the repertory. If I want the type of eructations, I can use my down arrow to move the cursor down. I don't have to use my mouse. Hit return. And now I see the types of eructation. And now I can use my down and up arrows to navigate among these and come down and find the word that's coming to my head is offensive. And oh, there it is, offensive eructations. And return. And again, I see this is not an actual rubric, but it's a placeholder with a cross-reference. And I can click on See Foul to link directly to it, or just click Return again from here to go to that rubric. Now, it's possible to browse the same navigation windows using the mouse or trackpad rather than alternating with the keyboard, even starting with the root navigation window. So to get the root navigation window, we can come up to the application menu, search, find a rubric to open this, or we can find it in the drop-down menu next to the search icon in the toolbar, find a rubric. Or much more easily, I can just hold down the function key on my keyboard and press F2. So you can go through and navigate to your section and so on and scroll down and so on and use your mouse for this, which is an okay way to go. But I'd encourage you instead to become acquainted with the use of the keyboard for navigating, as you'll actually find it much more efficient in practice. Remember, the whole idea of asking a computer to do this work for you is so that you can spend more time with your patient, being all those things to your patient that the computer can't be. Now, we can also search for rubrics if you know one or more keywords that you're looking for. Click up in the search field in the top toolbar and type. For example, I'm looking for a rubric that has to do with cutting pain in the bladder at the end of urination. So I'm just going to type cutting bladder end and return twice. And my search results open in a search tab here. These two rubrics are identified. Now, we've set up the search function to search in the current document only, so the results are restricted to the synthesis repertory. In a future tutorial on searching, we'll see that this can actually include other references as well, but for routine work, while we're working on an analysis, we probably want to leave it this way. Note that the table of contents opens, displaying the text or texts that the search has been done in. To simplify our display again, we probably want to close that by clicking the Hide the Table of Contents tab in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. Rubrics can be added directly from the search dialog, as they can from the repertory view, using any of the methods described in the Collecting Rubrics tutorial. Remember, I usually prefer using the plus key keyboard shortcuts for this. Or we could double-click on one of the search results and navigate to that rubric in the repertory. So I'm going to make the search dialog active again by clicking on this tab. Now, you might wish to add these two rubrics combined so that they'll be counted as a single rubric in the analysis. And imagine that we'd like to put these in clipboard 3 for whatever reason you might come up with. Check the checkboxes in front of each of these rubrics. Hold on the Shift key and press the plus key. Okay. We'll put them in as intensity 1. We'll combine them in the group we'll call P, and we'll direct them to clipboard 3 using the greater than sign and a 3. So it looks like a little arrow pointing to clipboard 3. And click the Take button, or much more easily, just press Return. Okay. These are now added to clipboard 3, combined under the grouping P. So let me close the search tab. Rather than using the tiny search field in the main toolbar, you can click on the spyglass icon or select Search from its drop-down menu, or more simply, hold on your function key and press the F4 key. And this opens up a much larger search field, which behaves in exactly the same manner. There are some fancier things we can do with this search dialog, and there's a much more complex search dialog that we could pull up, which I'll address later. But when merely searching for a rubric containing a known word or two, all we need are these more simple search functions. In subsequent tutorials, I'll explore using cross-references and concept files for rubric navigation, as these can also be quite useful in practice.